right up on 10 years now. We've been building and repairing food trucks and trailers. Prior to this, so my story is not quite as linear as yours, but I'll start a little bit closer to the beginning so I don't have to jump around as much.
Absolutely.
I went to culinary school. Prior to that, I'd worked kind of blue collar jobs, construction, that type of stuff. I went to culinary school, worked in a bunch of great restaurants in Florida, really cut my teeth figuring out how to serve high-end food, cook high-end food, things like that. I eventually got my own hot dog cart. The way that panned out, it was a few $100 from some like kind of redneck guys out in the middle of Florida. It was just in pieces in like on pallet, and we had to bring it back to the shop. It was, I think, from the 1950s. So I'm not at the shop, my garage. I brought it back to my garage at my house, and I put it together. I learned how to weld, did the electrical, the wiring, all that kind of stuff. Got it through the health department. Started serving hot dogs. I was doing gourmet sausages and hot dogs. So for an example of kind of the dishes that we were doing, one of them was a bratwurst, a beer brat, right? And I've always felt that beer brats never really taste like beer as much as I want them to. So I would, I'd boil them in Guinness because I thought Guinness was a really strong beer. And then I would do a Guinness reduction, mix that with a little bit of syrup, so give it a good texture. And then when someone would order one, I would make it a point. I bought, if you remember from like horror movies or 1950s movies, they have those big syringes where it's like stainless steel in the glass tube.
I have one at home.
I make such a show. I would take the syringe, I'd fill it up, from the Guinness, and I'd pop it into the bratwurst and just pump it full of Guinness. So that way it was literally, it would make the bun soggy. It was just overflowing with beer. And then I put beer mustard on that. That was kind of like the type of stuff that I was trying to do. And if I'm being honest with myself, I think I had something to prove coming out of culinary school, working in top restaurants. I probably would have done better just serving regular hot dogs and sausages. But, I was young and I really wanted to show what I could do in the culinary world. So I put a lot of effort into it with that. That was going pretty well. I ended up deciding to move to Los Angeles just because the town that I lived in Florida was a pretty small town. It's called Bradenton. And I was in my early 20s. I kind of was a big fish in a small pond type thing. Yeah. So I moved to LA just to push myself, thinking that I would just get a job working at a food truck manufacturing facility. I really enjoyed building the cart. I thought that I did a good job. I wanted to learn how to do that. That didn't work out at all. No one was really hiring. I told people I'd sweep the floors. I'll do our work for free. That didn't work at all. So eventually I saw a job ad with Roaming Hunger. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah. I'm familiar too, just because the Pirates are like spring training is Bradenton, I think. Pittsburgh Pirates. Yeah. And I live in Pittsburgh now, so I was in Bradenton once. But anyway,
That's crazy.
Yeah,
small world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I applied for the job at Roaming Hunger, and what that job was food truck operator. They had a really large client who represents a pretty large share of the food market in the world, and they were wanting to launch a frozen food line targeted towards millennials. And if you know anything about millennials and frozen food, they are not compatible. Millennials are very hard to appeal to with the frozen line. I think to this day, no one's really tapped into that market. But this organization wanted to, and they knew that the way to do that was with an authentic story. So after a lot of vetting, a lot of back and forth, I was then the face of this food truck, and it was a pretty cool operation. So I got to drive the food truck all around the country, serving in all different cities. I was posted up in Nashville in the food truck for about a year, serving at every major event, just serving celebrities. Really, it was just to try and get the name of the truck out there. I was able to have full control over the menu, the food cost, where we serve, things like that. I was given a lot of freedom, really to just keep the story authentic. So the idea was that, after a couple of years of running this food truck, the key learnings would be extracted from that. The popular recipes would be extracted, and then that would be translated into a frozen format that would be pushed into stores. And it did. It actually did get pushed into a frozen format. Was not as successful as was hoped. Turned out the millennial market is even harder to tap into than was expected in the planning of that operation. But so after we launched it in frozen, things slowed down a little bit for that. And that kind of gave me some free time. So I really enjoy working with my hands. I started working on food trucks, repairing food trucks, things like that. From those repairs, I was in my 20s still, so I would stay up all night. I didn't need sleep like I do now. So I'd stay up all night, I'd fix those food trucks. And it turns out the there was a conflict of interest doing those repairs with Roaming Hunger. So we ended up parting ways on good terms. It wasn't anything sour. It was all on good terms. And I focused on doing those repairs. I hadn't really set out to build food trucks. I just wanted to do repairs. And I could do anything. I was able to fix refrigerators, lighting, plumbing, whatever was going on with the food truck. I was able to do that. Excuse me.
Yeah, no problem.
And from that, money was going pretty well. Some of the repairs would pay well, and I was constantly busy. There's a lot more food trucks that if you've owned a food truck, it constantly needs repairs.
I bet, yeah.
So there was no shortage of work for me. I ended up calling one of my friends from Florida. I moved him out to California to work full time with me. And shortly after that, I bought an existing food truck that was a health food oriented food truck called Greens on Wheels. Served mostly salads, wraps, sandwiches, that kind of thing. That did reasonably well. Had that for a little while. And one thing kind of led to another with all the repairs. Eventually, somebody asked me if I could build them a food truck. And I was a little hesitant, but after I saw the other food truck that they already had and how low quality it was, I was like, okay, yeah, we could definitely do that.
Yeah.
That kind of launched things. And that was about 10 years ago. And we started out in a storage facility, like just a storage unit with one little spot. Then we got 3 storage facilities. Then I was able to move into a shop in San Fernando. And then we moved out into Santa Clarita, where we are now, about almost 5 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, a little long-winded story.
No, it's a good story. I'm definitely familiar with them, but I didn't realize they operate in the manner you were describing. Like, so here, when I had my trucks and restaurants, I would just like get email leads for gigs from Roaming Hunger, and they'd be like, a chef is needed for like 100 people. And I thought that's all they were. I had no idea they had their own concepts. So that was
yeah. And so I think their organization is a little bit, they've got some different departments now. There's Roaming Hunger, which you're definitely familiar with. And then they have RMG or RMNG. I can't quite remember, but it's their agency department. So if someone were to say, want to, I don't know, market their new brand of sneakers or something, and they wanted to attach that to a food truck, where a food truck is literally serving sneakers, driving from here to New York City across 3 months, hiring ambassadors, Roaming Hunger would cultivate that and make that happen. They would execute the entire thing.
To drive across the country. So when you were doing that, did you have breakdowns on the road, and like in terms of needing a repair, did you have to do your own repairs, or you just find a random food truck repair person in whatever state you were in? It's just operating here. Like, I have my guys and I could go to them, but I have no idea what I'd be doing if I were like in Nevada with my truck, like where that convention was.
Right. Yeah. So thankfully, because of the large corporate client that was behind the project, there was ample budget to deal with any problems that arose like that. But that being said, I did almost all the repairs myself. I really treated the truck as if it was my own. I believed it was my own, and I treated it with the utmost care. So yeah, any like minor mechanical repairs, things like that, I handled myself. I think we had a flat tire a couple times. The engine blew up once. The head gasket blew once. Normal food truck stuff. But yeah, we were able to get back on the road pretty quickly.
Yeah. So I'm interested in your aptitude here, right? You build trucks, obviously, and you mentioned doing repairs yourself, and that is something I've seen here. I'm guessing I'm not as handy as you, but having a food truck for 15 years, I became a lot handier. And like anytime I had the opportunity to learn from someone like you, like I would just ask people if I could shadow them and be like, hey, can you show me what's going on? Not because I don't want you to have business in the future, but I'd like to be able to handle these problems. And I found most people are pretty generous that way if you're not getting in their way. And I've learned a lot. But the trucks that I have seen kind of fall flat before they had a chance to succeed, one of the common denominators is that the people just are either not capable of learning how to do basic repairs or have no interest in learning. And I think a lot of people don't realize, not that it's an everyday part of the job, maintenance could be, but they don't realize like how it's a very real part of the job for successful operation and being on top of those things. I remember one very nice woman who had a truck, and like every time she showed up event, there'd just be a different problem. And so many different mechanics and those sort of people would like take advantage of her just because she had no base knowledge. So like, what base knowledge would you recommend for someone like getting into the game as far as like when to know to handle something on your own or try versus seeing a professional? Do you have a clear like line of demarcation either on the mechanical truck side or the restaurant equipment side? Or
Yeah, I actually probably err towards more empowering the owner. I think that, you know, any restaurant business is a numbers game, but mobile specifically, it's really, really razor thin margins. And if you're losing money on repairs, you're going to be going under at some point eventually. There's almost no way around it. So I think every owner should really try and empower themselves, learn as much about repairing their truck as they possibly can, as they have the aptitude for it.
Sure.
But yeah, like any minor maintenance stuff, you know, we see people, like a good example that I see, a lot of customers, they'll pay to bring their generator into a Camping World or some small engine repair shop, and they'll pay $200 to $300 for an oil change that if they were to do themselves would cost like $15.
Yeah, that's one thing I specifically mentioned in my course. Like at minimum, learn to change your oil for your generator. Like understand at least what spark plugs do and how often they should be changed if you're not going to change those yourself. But yeah,
100%.
we're on the same page there.
Yeah, and definitely those are some red flags. When customers don't have any tendencies towards being handy or able to work with their hands in any way, that's a pretty strong indicator that they're going to struggle in this industry. And I'm really blunt with people when I'm in sales meetings with people. I want to let them know, like, listen, if you've never turned a wrench, if you've never used a screwdriver or a hammer, this is going to be a rude awakening for you, because this is about to be part of your day-to-day life. You know, whether you like it or not, right. You either figure it out yourself or you're paying someone, you're waiting for a time to get into their shop, and it's going to cost a lot of money and you're going to lose business. And a lot of customers think like, oh, well, how much is it to really repair whatever, a thing, a flat tire, something like that. The cost is not in the repair. The cost is in the downtime.
Yeah, the cost of missing events, exactly, right?
Yeah. And most food truck operations, they're seasonal. So you might only have 6 months out of the year to really generate that money. And if you're going to be down for a week or two with repairs, I mean, that could be the money that makes the difference between getting you through the winter or not. And we definitely see that all too often.